What's up, everybody, and welcome to the David Green Show, Real Talk Real Estate, the show where we pull back the curtain and show you what goes on behind the scenes of real estate investing. That includes the good, that includes the bad, and it includes the ugly, sharing with you the things that you're not going to hear on the other podcasts. That's right, we're not basic. This is special. Today, I'm joined by Tanner Litchfield, who's got a deal that frankly blew my mind when he told me about what went on with it, especially because it's coming through a strategy that many people have heard is the safest way to invest in real estate. So buckle your seatbelt, get ready for an amazing show because you're going to learn some things that you've never heard before. Tanner, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, first off, for having the courage to come in and talk about $180,000 that was lost. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody always wants to share their wins. They even probably gloss up their wins to make them look better than they really are. And the result is we have an entire, I don't know if community is the right word, but we have an entire ecosystem of real estate investing where everyone thinks that everyone else is doing better than they really are. That leads to everyone feeling bad about themselves. It's kind of like before it was commonly known that magazines have airbrush models, and I'd have to hear my mom and my aunts and everyone like, these women are all so gorgeous and I'm over here looking bad. And I had a really pretty mom. There's no reason for her to look bad. But when everyone else is edited to look better than they are, you start to feel like there's something wrong with you. And what we're trying to do in this series is help people realize that there's nothing wrong with them, that there's everything wrong with the way that deals are presented and wins are presented. So thanks for being a part of it.
Of course, brother.
All right. So let's start off. Tell me about how you found the deal, where you were when you found it, what about it called out to you? What emotions were you feeling when you saw it?
Yeah. And I'll put one point out. Like, I appreciate what you're doing, David. I think the sentiment in social media is that everything's better than it is. That's exactly what I try and do. And my social media is scream more about my losses than I do my wins for this exact reason. So I applaud you for that. I think it's super helpful. This deal came about. It was probably 18 months ago. I was born and raised in the Seattle area, and that's where I started my real estate career. And to keep a long story short, I was growing my portfolio, my career out in Seattle, and then my wife wanted to get closer to family. She won the battle. That's the long story made short, of course. And we brought our way out to Utah, and we sold a live-in flip in the Seattle area, Kirkland more specifically. We did. Yeah.
Shout out to Michael Green, my cousin, who works in Kirkland. They're from Bellingham, and they moved out that way. So that's pretty cool. You might have ran into him at some point. Anyways, completely irrelevant. But yeah, I know where Kirkland is.
Yeah, Kirkland's beautiful. I freaking loved it. I loved the house. So I still have some attachment there. But we sold that house, did really well on it. It was in the middle of COVID, so less on me as a skilled investor, more the market propelling me. I had this lump sum of money that I was excited to get to work. In my mind, when I have money set aside, especially in that large of quantity, I get anxious about it. I need to put it to work because I feel like it's going to lose money and I want to get ahead, right? So that was kind of the background on where my head was at. And I came to a brand new market in Utah, starting over, trying to deploy this capital in Utah. And so this was right around 2022. Or the beginning of 2023 when rates had skyrocketed, and now you're starting to hear creative finances thrown in your face all over. And I had done BRRRR previously because rates were low. I could refinance and it made sense. Now that no longer made sense. So I felt like I was starting over fresh as an investor, and social media, Facebook groups, the new buzzword was creative finance. Now, I didn't know much in general about what creative finance entailed. I didn't know that creative finance was an umbrella of several different strategies. All I knew was I could get a low interest rate and I could cash flow in appreciating markets. And so that kind of hooked me. And so long story short, again, because we could talk for days on this, I was introduced to a wholesaler. We went to lunch. There was portrayed this image of this guy that he was extremely successful, was doing these multi multi-million dollar deals in Hawaii. And so for whatever reason, I trusted him more than I should have. And he said, hey, listen, I got this deal. I haven't blasted it out to anyone. I've enjoyed getting to know you at this lunch. I'll give you first dibs. And so turns out it was a 3% interest rate. Seemed too good to be true, right? $450,000 purchase, 3% interest rate. The biggest thing now looking back is $110,000 down, which I wouldn't do in today's world. But so I asked him all my questions, the guy selling my deal, which is a mistake that I wouldn't make today. I asked him all these questions like, why aren't you taking this down? You're a successful dude. You have the capital. And I took it down. And yeah, I don't want to ruin all the story now, David. If you have any questions, I appreciate now,
that. I can tell you've talked about it before. And so once you get down that route, you go. So kudos to you for recognizing you were about to keep going with that. All right. So one thing that you mentioned that I want to highlight here is you had a little feeling in your gut, like this just doesn't make sense. Why would you not be taking it down? So you asked him. You also highlighted you're getting it from a wholesaler. Wholesalers, in my experience, when I listen to YouTube channels or podcasts, their name has become synonymous with good deal. Like they get you a better deal than a real estate agent. They get you a better deal. You go to them for the deal. You go to the real estate agent if you don't know what you're doing, which isn't wrong. They can get good deals. It just isn't the whole story. Oftentimes, wholesalers are way shadier than the most incompetent real estate agent you could ever find. They are actually motivated to hide things from you. They are not licensed, if people did not know that. So there is no oversight, regulation, or consequences if they do not disclose something to you. They're actually, I would say, motivated to not disclose something to you, as opposed to a real estate agent that is in big trouble if they don't do that. And they're trying to shine up a deal to make it look as good as they can to get you to buy it. And then sometimes, we're probably going to get into this later, wholesalers will try to wholesale somebody else's deal who is trying to wholesale someone else's deal. So you start to get layers of shadiness that get involved where someone gets a deal on the hook. They can't sell it. They go to someone else who has a network of buyers and they go, hey, if anybody wants to buy this deal, it's this much money. They just tack on a percentage to what they're going to get paid. Someone else sees it. They have a better network. They bring it in there and it just gets so complicated. This would never happen in a regulated environment, but in the world of wholesaling, that's the Wild West. There's no way of knowing where you're getting. It almost turns into like the drug scene in Oakland, where you can be buying cocaine that's been stepped on from someone. Ketamine's been added to it. Baking soda has been added to it. You have no idea what you're actually getting when you're just buying it from some rando drug dealer on the street. So I don't want to assume that was happening with this wholesaler, but can you at least acknowledge that you do see similar architecture in deals that are purchased off market from wholesalers?
100%. But what I will say on top of that, David, is I think wholesale can be done in an ethical manner. I do believe there are good wholesalers that are upfront about things just on the real estate agent side. I firmly believe that wholesalers should have a license. As someone that wholesales here and there, I have a license as a realtor that I have to disclose certain things, where that's where my beef is probably similar with you, David, is when it's the wild, wild west and there's no regulations, there's a lot that can go wrong because they're not held to any standards whatsoever. So that's my 2 cents there. I don't think wholesale is a bad thing. I don't think all of them are terrible, but I do 100% agree that there's not enough regulation there and you need to be cautious when you're dealing with wholesale deals.
The strategies or the structures themselves are rarely bad. The way they are presented to the public is usually where the danger comes from. And that's the point of this 100%. Podcast, is not to say they're bad, they're good. I'm not sitting here as the judge of all things real estate, but I do want to show people the whole story, which I appreciate you doing today. All right. So you find this deal is in Hawaii then, because that's where the wholesaler is?
No, he was doing deals in Hawaii, out of state. He's from Utah. This deal was in Utah.
Okay. All right. I got confused by our Kirkland connection there, but this is a Utah deal. Was this like a short-term rental or an apartment complex? What type of property is it?
So it was a single family residence. 2014 was the year built, and it had an ADU play. So I put 110 down, 70 grand finishing out the basement. So I was all in for 180.
All right. Now, is this just like a straight up rental, just long-term rental that you're looking to buy?
Yeah, I'm
All
very
right.
boring.
And that seems safe. In most cases, boring is good, right? If I'm going to assume now, if this is something you're buying sub to, what that means, just in layman's terms, is you're buying it subject to the existing mortgage, which means you're not going to get a loan to buy the property and give the seller the money who then pays off the money that they owe. You take over the payments that the seller has been making, which usually happens when the seller has a lower interest rate than you would have if you went to go get a loan. That's why the strategy has become very popular as interest rates have gone up, because cash flow went away. So sub 2 gets marketed as, well, if you buy a property with a lower interest rate, you're going to get better cash flow. You solve the problem. The downside is that you have to make up the difference between what you're paying for the house and what they owe on their current mortgage. So you had to pay $110,000 to make up the difference. Then you still had to pay your remodel or your rehab of $70,000 to finish a basement, which kudos to you. That's one of the strategies that I like the most. I call that forcing cash flow, because you probably created another unit that could be rented out as an ADU separate from the main house. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So you put $110,000 of your hard-earned, hard-saved money into this thing. Then you spent another $70,000 on the rehab. Did anything go wrong with the contractor or the remodel of the basement? That seems like about what I'd expect someone to do.
It's funny that you brought that up, because this is never part of the story, but because you brought it up, the contractor was the wholesaler's family. It was his construction company with his sons doing the job. They quoted me 50 and it ended up being 70. 70, I feel like, is around what I would have paid for.
Don't you love, bro? I'm sorry to cut you off.
You're good.
Is there another profession anywhere that can tell you it's going to be X to do the job you're hiring me for and just add to it indiscriminately, but they never say, you know what, we got it done faster and easier. It's only going to be 40. Like, can you think of anything else where you go somewhere and they say, hey, I'll sell you this car for $15,000. And then the minute you're signing the check, they're like, actually, it's going to be $22,000. The tires were a little bit more expensive. It just, contractors routinely get away with it, and it only goes in one direction, and there's not a lot of oversight there either. So did they tell you what led to this $20,000 difference in what you had to pay?
No, and this was a big mistake on my end. Is they said, we expect it to be this, we're going to go hourly. You pay for materials, we'll go hourly. Especially, I'm not going to be there checking hours the entire time, right? So it just got out of hand. It kept going. There was more excuses. So yeah, that's what happened.
All right. So 40% increase in your construction costs right off the bat. They conveniently are able to offload the risk from themselves to you by going hourly. So now if they work too slow, if they take long lunch breaks, if they make a mistake and they have to go back and fix that mistake, it doesn't come out of their end. They just charge you more. They're actually incentivized to make mistakes. And I've heard contractors do this, and they always rationalize it saying, hey, David, I'm not in the business of losing money. Like, well, if I suck at my job, I'm usually going to lose money at it. Like, you didn't get to offload the risk of this $180,000 to anybody else, but contractors will do that. So my advice is, do not fall for the offer of we work hourly. You tell me what it will cost you to do this job. You are responsible for doing your own due diligence, like all the rest of us have to figure this thing out. Do not pay them 100% of what they're owed, or even 50% of what they're owed. Give them small draws as they go. So if they F this thing up, you can cut your losses pretty quick and hopefully have got the work done that you paid them for, and keep them on the hook to stay honest with these mistakes that they're making. Little public service announcement there. So going back to this deal, what were you thinking it was going to cash flow? What was your cash on cash return going to be? Was there an equity gain here? Like, tell me what you thought the deal was going to look like.
Yeah. So I can't remember what I thought it would be, but the numbers after it was all stabilized were actually great. Like, at the end of the day, I felt like there was 50 grand in equity built. Not great, especially in the traditional BRRRR model and for how much I'm throwing capital at it. But the cash flow was great. It was, I think, around $1,400 in cash flow. And this was 2 years ago. If it's plus or minus 100, 200, I can't remember exactly. But when I add up cash flow, I'm very conservative. And so that's including vacancy, capital expenditures, property tax, everything, right? So it was around 1,400. I remember it being like a 14% cash on cash. So if people are doing backwards math and if it's off a little bit, I do remember it was a 14% cash on cash. So whatever I put into it, that's around where I was at.
Okay, cool. So you're expecting $1,400 a month in cash on cash. And did you mention how much equity you thought that you would be adding to the deal?
50 grand was my total equity after what I put in.
Okay, so you thought, hey, I'm going to force equity of about $50,000. I'm going to get cash flow of $1,400 after I force cash flow by developing this basement. This looks like a deal that most people would jump on, that I would say, yeah, that sounds good, assuming it's in a good neighborhood. And do they have bad neighborhoods in Utah?
Some.
Okay, so, but it probably wasn't a bad one.
This is not a terrible neighborhood. It's up and coming.
Okay. Now, where did things start to unravel? What was the first thing that went wrong?
Yeah. So for the sake of this call and to kind of jog my memory on timelines, this was May 10th, 2023. So a little over a year and a half almost. There was a letter posted on my tenant's door. So I'm not receiving this letter. I'm getting a picture of this letter from my tenant who has been in there for 2 months. So I was stabilized for literally 2 months. And the letter was a notice of trustee sale. So I'm reading it. This is getting foreclosed on. It's not me listed. It's the seller. But still, right? I have 180 grand invested in this and it's going to the auctions.
Okay. So to clarify this, you took over the seller's mortgage as part of the sub-2 deal. And you've made the mortgage payments that you were supposed to make for them. So you weren't giving the money to the seller and trusting they made the payments, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay, you're making the payments yourself. So you can't understand why the lender would be foreclosing on this if you've made the payments. Go ahead and jump back in.
Exactly. Like I'm confused. I've been making my payments as a very young to creative finance or inexperienced beginner. I'm going to the people that I have experience with in this endeavor, which is the wholesaler, sadly, and eventually attorneys, right? And so the first call was the wholesaler. I'm like, what the freak is going on? I was kind of in panic mode, and he said, this is nothing to worry about. We've dealt with this before. Blah, blah, blah. Let us deal with it. So I let him deal with it. And then a couple weeks go by, I'm following up and it doesn't seem like there's a solution. And so I said, okay, what are next steps? Like, how are we going to save this? And keep in mind, like after asking him all these questions before, I had zero clue what I was getting myself into. Zero clue. And that's on me. Like I understand that now. When I've done a lot more creative finance deals in general and gained some experience in this industry is that that's on me for trusting this guy and not doing my own due diligence. But the next step for the solution was to convert this to a contract for deed. And David, I can expand a little bit more on what a contract for deed is if you'd like. But that was their next step in the solution.
Well, yeah, a contract for deed would basically be, it's kind of a compromise. Like we are going to foreclose on you. And the foreclosure process is the act that the lender has to take title back from the person who they gave the loan to. And they're claiming that this person defaulted on the terms of their loan, which is usually you didn't make the payment. Other things can trigger a foreclosure. But they're saying, hey, instead of making us spend all this money to go to court and foreclose and take the property back, if you just give us the title without making us get a judge to issue it to us, and every state has a different process for that, we'll give you some kind of benefit, which is usually it won't go against your credit as 7 years. I'm sure that there's some kind of penalty you're going to have, maybe like a 3-year credit hit. But they're working with you if you'll work with them. But you're sitting here like, I don't want you to take it back at all. I'm making your effing payments. Like, what the hell's going on? So you're scared that they're offering you a contract for deed situation. Sometimes they'll call it a like title in lieu or something like that. And you talked to the wholesaler. Did the wholesaler know? I would think they wouldn't have any clue.
Yeah. So the wholesaler is actually communicating. This gets like further into the weeds, but the listing agent, this was on market at one point, is the seller's brother. And so the listing agent is working with the wholesaler. the wholesaler had it under contract with the listing agent. And so when I say contract for deed, they wanted me to convert this to a contract for deed with the seller. And so it would throw title back to the original seller's name. And so they would have ownership, right? And then because they have ownership and I no longer am the title holder, then supposedly the bank is going to allow us to keep making the payments because it's in their name. And so that was the solution that was presented to me. And so I did it. I'm like, if I want to save $180,000 of my cash that I've thrown into this, then I want to do whatever I can. And so if I have to throw title back in their name for a time being, and I still have equitable interest, is what my attorney stated, then that was the best shot.
Okay, so what you're saying is the bank realized title transferred to you, but the loan is being paid by you, but they didn't give the loan to you. And basically that triggered their due on sale clause. So they said, hey, we don't know who you are, Tanner, but we never underwrote you for this loan. We underwrote the person that you bought the property from. We don't feel comfortable taking payments from you. So if you're going to do that, we're going to foreclose on you. And if you want to avoid that, give title back to the person that we gave the loan to. Is that right?
So not quite. So because the bank wasn't involved in this discussion yet, it was only me, the wholesaler, the listing agent, trying to find solutions without involving the bank yet. So, and I can answer your question, David, because that's where my head was going. I'm like, why is this getting foreclosed on? I still had no clue. Like payments were updated. I had paid arrears of 20 grand, which was included in my $110,000 down payment. So I thought things were updated.
Meaning you had caught them up to speed because they had fallen behind on their mortgage, which is why they're selling it to you in the first place. Okay.
Exactly right. Yep. So I'm confused. Like I have no idea why this is being foreclosed on. So this contract for deed happened. I threw title back in their name. And then a month later, whenever it was, we get another notice that it's still going to auction after I thought this was going to be the solution. So now talking with my attorney, the attorney says, yeah, they know everything that's going on. You need to stop trying to hide from the bank and just see if there's any sort of solution with the bank. So now I'm like, great, like this is still going downhill fast. They have a date for the auction and everything, which was quickly approaching. So I get on the phone with the attorney that's selling or foreclosing on this property. And what they told me is what shocked me the most is that, hey, listen, there's several reasons why we can foreclose on this property. And this lady was super nice. She's like, I'm not allowed to say a ton of detail because your name is not on this loan. And so she was trying to help me out, but she's like, for some reason, the $20,000 was lost. The wire never went from title to pay off their arrears. So whether the seller got that 20 grand
and just chose not to pay it back. Yeah. So you're trusting that in that 110, 90 goes to them, 20 goes to pay what they owed. You gave them the full 110 because that was part of the deal. Maybe they just said, well, it's his problem now. I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to keep that 20.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so this is one of the main learning lessons is have a title company that you trust, specifically that's representing your side. Because I don't think this would have happened if I had that. But anyways, so the 20,000 was nowhere to be found. So I'm yelling at the wholesaler, the listing agent, telling him to figure that part out. Obviously, my patience is gone. And they said, yeah, we're figuring it out. It sounds like the wiring instructions were off a little bit. They're tracking it down, blah, blah, blah. And so, but then what the attorney said is that, hey, listen, even if that $20,000 gets paid, we're still foreclosing on this. And here's why, because only the owner occupant can live here. This was a low income assistance program, which was the loan that I took over. And I had no idea. Again, this is on me for not reading all the contract work. I trusted this guy. It's a low.
Who does, man? I know it's easy to say that and everyone's going to jump out and say, you should have looked at it. If you had seen that, would you even have known what that meant? I don't think I would have. Like, that's just the seller being shady and you having no real representation. I'm sorry I cut you off there. And I appreciate you taking ownership of it, but that's why we're making this show, because it's too easy to point the finger and say, you should have known, you shouldn't have done this. And then all the people that conspired to rip you off get off the hook because you're the only one that takes any responsibility. So I see what you're saying here, that like that part of the conditions of that loan was that only that person can live in that house. They're not able to assign it sub to.
Yeah. And there's pages and pages of legal jargon, right? So I should have done more due diligence. And my thought on that, David, is like, there's a lot of fingers to be pointed here. But if me personally, like me being selfish, if I want to improve on this and if I want to like limit myself from making these same mistakes, I have to have 100% accountability, or else like it's going to be a victim game and I'm going to be running from my problems all over again. So that's I know there's several people that could have prevented this for me myself, but in order for me to have the right mind space to keep going, like that's what I tell myself. So whether it helps or not, that's right. What I tell myself.
And they're claiming that you're in default on the loan because the person they gave the loan to is not living in the house, because that person took low income assistance and then stopped making their payments. So you are now in the position where you're thinking, all right, if I give title back to them, the bank will stop this foreclosure process, but are you then going to lease the property from them? And how do you get your money back? Like, how do you unwind all this?
Yeah. So when I figured that out, I knew that I couldn't fix this, is what me and my attorneys came to. That was the end solution, right? Is not even a solution, but the end result was that I couldn't fix the current financing that was in place. So now my next step in my head is damage control. So if I don't want to lose 180 grand, I have a little bit of equity in here. I have a big down payment that I put in, 70 grand of rehab. So I need to get this thing paid off with hard money, and then just sell it, just get it off my books. Because after a 7% interest rate in there, it's no longer a deal. I'm just going to cut my losses, move on with it. And that's where things got really bad, because I wanted this solution. This is where I was heading, but I needed a loan payoff authorization. So again, I don't want to go down another rabbit hole if you have questions or.
No, that makes sense here. So you've got to figure out, like, you can't just get a loan to buy it because the deal only made sense because you got locked in at this 3.5% interest rate. So that's not an option. You can't really, I guess you could sell it, but you probably didn't buy it at a discounted rate because you were getting the sub 2, right? So all of your traditional exit strategies are kind of gone, because the whole point of sub 2 is that you just buy and hold, but that's all you need to do because you're getting the lower rate. And when you talk to the wholesaler and all the other people, they really have nothing to offer.
Exactly. So, and I couldn't even sell it. Like the traditional exit of selling and recouping some of my losses, I couldn't do because I didn't have title. It was a contract for deed, and the loan assumption, like in order to sell this property, I needed a payoff, an authorization from the bank to even wipe them clean. So I was told.
So the bank may have said to you, we won't take your money because you're not the person that owns this property.
Exactly.
Now, you said you didn't have title. Can you explain that part to me? Because I thought that when you bought the property, you got the mortgage, but you also got the title to the home.
Yeah. So in a normal sub 2 deal, the loan stays in their name, title goes to me. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I purchased this deal. I had title, but then on the contract for deed, when we were trying to save this deal, I reverted the title back to their name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tanner. I thought that was like a solution. I didn't realize you did it. So you said, all right, stop the foreclosure process. You can have it back. We have this situation. So now you can't sell. Oh my God. So now the owner of this home has all the money and control of the property, and you're just terrified because they could do anything they want here.
Exactly. My hands are tied.
They could go sell the house to somebody else and get money from that person, and you're left without. Do you have any recourse there?
I didn't know all the ins and outs to it. What I was like focused on is I need to get a payoff so that I can sell this. Because my attorney said when I have this deal on a contract for deed, I have equitable interest, so I still have rights to sell it. So that's what I was told, but I couldn't sell it without the payoff authorization from the bank, which I needed a signature from the seller, who is now an alcoholic, nowhere to be found. I'm calling his aunts, uncles, cousins, skip tracing everyone. The listing agent, which was again his brother, had a restraining order against him, which no idea how that comes about. So he was no help. So I'm just like Wild West, knocking on doors, trying to get this signature. And long story short,
what are you feeling when you're in this position? Like, honestly,
dude, I mean, like, we highlighted this a little bit before the show, is that I'm attached to money, and that's by nature. That brings me so much anxiety, the thought of losing money.
But
and
this
so
isn't just money, bro. This is $180,000. Everybody's attached to $180,000. Like,
yeah.
Are you losing sleep at night? Is it hard to connect with your wife because you just feel like, I can't think of anything else until I figure this out?
100%. Yeah. Like I was a zombie. Like I had one. Yeah.
And then not only is this one thing you got to fix, but this thing has like 17 moving parts that you have no experience in, and no one else does either. How many people can you even talk to about how do I fix this? They don't know.
I talked to so many attorneys. So when comments come in like, well, you should have just done this and that. Like if I'm not communicating it like the exact way, like I talked to the top attorneys in Utah from what I was aware of. And so it's not like I was just going blind at this. Like if I'm not telling the story exactly how my attorney said it, then there's probably some fault there. But like I was going to the exact limits.
How much did you spend in attorney fees?
I think it was around like 15 grand.
This is like $200,000 now.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Okay. And do you have tenants in the house at this point that are renting from you?
Yeah. Yeah. And they're also trying to sue me.
Of course.
I kid you not. And like, I can't blame them either. Like they're trying to sue me because they moved into a property. And what does a tenant think when I try and explain this situation? Like, hey, they're saying I don't own the house, and so they're foreclosing on it, even though I put $180,000 down. Like that doesn't make sense to the common person, let alone like even a lot of investors don't understand that. So, yeah, they were coming after me too. So a lot being thrown.
And how many deals had you bought before this one?
I think I had like 12 properties at this time.
And this just blindsides you, dude. So your pride's getting hit, your pocketbook's getting hit. You probably feel like you're alone. Like even 100%. The attorneys you're talking to don't know what the hell they're supposed to do. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to an attorney, because we always say, oh, are you stuck? Do you need backup? Go get an attorney. Attorneys can be idiots. They usually just want to know, what's the path that I've walked a million times before? How can I get $400 an hour from you to walk a path that I've already walked as slow as I can walk it and milk you for as much as you possibly can? They present themselves like your advocates, but they're not trying to save you money. They're trying to get as much money as they can from you, and they're not looking to do anything that they haven't done before. So I would imagine every attorney you talk to had to ask a million questions to try to get up to speed on this, did not have confidence to tell you that they know what to do. And we're like, hey, it's going to be a $10,000 retainer for me to go do a bunch of research to figure out, and then maybe I'll be able to help you. Not fun.
I was even talking to like the top foreclosure attorney in Utah. Like I was like, this guy's got to have answers. There's a lot that was happening. There's one more part that is just like, it's hard to make this up. It feels like everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. But now with that 15 grand attorney fees, now I'm paying my tenants. Like, hey, listen, I'm super sorry. I'm going to pay your move out costs, because I genuinely did feel bad. And so I paid for their move out costs to find a new place, also to avoid another lawsuit. So trying to avoid more problems there. But then it went to auction after I couldn't get the payoff, and there was excess funds. So it sold for more than they sold it for. And so now my attorney I'm working with is like, there's 40 grand in excess funds. I go through a month thinking that I'm going to get 40 grand back. And then the cherry on top of this deal, David, they say, oh, sorry, because you reverted title back to the other seller, you're not getting that 40 grand. The seller is getting that 40 grand.
You're just like funding this alcoholic's absolute shit storm of a life, right? Like they already fell 20,000 behind on their house. Some wholesaler sends them a letter. They call that wholesaler. The wholesaler like, look, bro, I'll fix this for you. We're going to sell it sub 2. You don't understand what that means. You just keep drinking. Basically, someone's going to pay your mortgage for you, and I'm going to get you 110,000. They say, sounds good to me. I could get a lot of King Cobra with $110,000. You do this, and now that person doesn't pay off the 20,000, triggers this stupid situation, and now because you tried to fix it and gave them the title back, they're now keeping the $40,000. And where was that going to come from?
The excess funds from the sale, the foreclosure.
Okay.
So,
but they're officially the owner of it, so now they get $40,000. And now someone like you that has worked this hard to save up money and been diligent with your money and a good steward of it is now basically funding the alcoholic lifestyle of this person that did terrible. And I can't help but say this. This never happens if you take the traditional route of buying a house from the MLS with the real estate agent, where you have lots of protections, you have lots of contracts, you have errors and omissions insurance that can cover your agents if they make mistakes, and that can cover you. There's like a whole fund for people that get screwed over in real estate deals that usually their state association of realtors will cover. You're just out there like with no bulletproof vest when these things are flying, and you didn't think you're going to end up in a war zone.
Exactly.
Okay, so where we were, you were thinking about selling the property to just get out from underneath it. But were you told if you do that, you won't get any of your money back?
Yeah, I was told that I couldn't. I was told because I don't have the payoff authorization signature that I couldn't.
Okay. So what do you do now?
I hit the wall, and with these discussions with the attorneys, I just realized I couldn't. And so it went to auction, and it sold to someone else. The excess funds went to the seller, and that's the end of the story. So,
there's no happy ending here. You
no,
literally lost everything you put into that thing.
Every dime.
And your attorney fees, and the move out fees you paid to your tenants, and the quality of life from just hating yourself. Like, did you get into therapy at this point? I have to ask. That has to be so bad.
It was so yes, of course. I'm talking to counselor. I'm talking to anyone who will listen to me at this point. But
you're going to the local bar and you're sharing your story with someone drinking next to you, and it turns out it's the homeowner who's there. Yeah. Let me tell you about my struggles. I thought things were bad for me, and $40,000 just hit my account out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what was a blessing to them was a curse to me. But at the end of it, it was. Honestly, it took 2 weeks where I was like just straight depressed still, like a zombie. And then I had a good discussion with my wife, who was like, hey, like, obviously her first interaction was like, what the hell did you just do? But like after some of these discussions, she's like, hey, I support you. I believe you're going to come out of it. And that's all I needed. So luckily, the moping around only lasted 2 weeks after this was officially wrapped up. And then I got back after it, and things have been good since. So,
okay. Since there's no silver lining to this cloud here, how did this change the way that you look at sub 2 investing, the way you look at wholesalers, the way you look at creative structuring of deals in real estate in general?
Yeah. So the biggest thing, I'd say like the lessons I learned from this deal specifically when it comes to sub 2 is number one, like have a title company that represents you and yourself. That's one of the biggest things. They have a lot less incentive to close a deal if they have your best interest in mind. Number two is make sure you're doing your due diligence on your own. Don't trust random wholesalers. Like, honestly, I'll even expand beyond that is don't trust anyone selling you a deal. Do your own due diligence. And then number three is watch the loan products that you're taking over. If you do plan on doing a sub 2, like please watch the loan products that you're taking over. But yeah, I'm still very much involved in the creative finance space, but I do things completely different. If a client of mine wants to get into this, I am telling them the story. I'm sending them links. I am like communicating this risk from the rooftops, because if I want to be in this industry for 20 years, I don't want someone coming back to me with how angry I was if they're not aware of these risks.
Yeah.
There's risks everywhere, but like it's my job to communicate those and to do the best job that I can. So
what do you think about the way that some of these alternative industries are marketed? The wholesaling, the sub two, they're obviously not evil inherently, but I think you and I could probably both agree that the way that many online influencers will talk about some of these gray areas only presents the wins, doesn't present the dangers. For people that are listening to this that are maybe new to hearing about it, or they've recently been connected with wholesalers or got into creative financing opportunities, or they found themselves in a Facebook group where they're specializing in creative financing and they're looking for these deals where you could take over somebody else's mortgage. What do you think they need to know to just operate safely?
Yeah. Well, what I'd say, number one, like marketing is marketing and should be seen as such. Real estate in and of itself is a risky business, especially on the investment side. And so YouTube in general is marketing. Instagram in general is marketing. Like, don't let that funnel what you do with all your money. And that's my opinion. Because with a lot of these strategies, the risks are not communicated clearly, especially in a 30-second reel, especially in a 10-minute YouTube video. Like, it's not possible. So that's one thing I'd say. Repeat the second part of that question, David, because I wanted to answer it, but my ADD brain.
Yeah, just when people are hearing about this, what are some things you think they need to know about it so that they don't get afraid to look into it? We don't want people to run away from wholesalers like they're lepers, but they need to understand that's not your friend, that's not your fiduciary. They very well could be a shady person themselves who interested in making money in real estate, has no money. Someone said, go wholesale. They just go knock on some rando's door. And that person's like, yeah, you could sell my house. I need to buy some more Coors Light. And that is what is being presented to you in this shady package, this email that you get with all this information.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so 2 parts to that. Number one, I think this is the importance of networking in general. If you have a band around you that has your best interest in mind, throwing deals in front of these people, throwing ideas, being able to bounce ideas back and forth is crucial in my opinion. And so getting involved in events, in Facebook groups that are like unbiased, not a specific strategy Facebook group, but maybe like a Utah investment community, more general sense. That's my 2 cents, is like, make sure you're networking so you have different people to bounce ideas back off of. And then number 2, for sub 2 specifically, I think the conclusion that I've drawn, like I still will do sub 2 deals here and there, very, very different than I've seen them before. And 9 out of 10 deals that I see from the sub 2 perspective, whether it's a wholesaler, someone talking about their own deal, I think are terrible. Like I have no idea why they would get into that deal. Probably because of the buzzword, right? But my 2 cents on sub 2 today is that it's not for new investors that are not well capitalized. If you don't have clear exit strategies, if the note does get called due, like it's terrible. So like seeing these brand new investors, like even the situation I was in, it didn't pan out well for me, but like I don't feel comfortable selling a sub 2 deal to anyone that's not well capitalized or an experienced investor, to where they can exercise different exit strategies that a new investor couldn't.
There we go. That's super, super helpful. Well, Tanner, really appreciate you coming on here and sharing this story. Really sorry to hear that this happened to you, but I am rooting for you to get all that back and more, making good decisions. If people want to reach out to you, ask more questions, follow you, where can they do so?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, the Investor Tanner. It's kind of loud behind me as well on that decal, but and then YouTube, the Investor Tanner as well. Those are the 2 biggest platforms that I focus on today. So.
All right, man. Anything you want to ask me or anything you want to say before I let you go?
No, I'll just reiterate that I appreciate the series and what you're doing, because a lot of people need to see this. And that's why I was excited to jump on, because this is what I'm trying to preach. Like, things don't go well in real estate and people need to understand that. So don't trust everything the gurus say.
Thanks for that, man. You'll be in my prayers. Great story, great resilience. Stick with it.
Thanks, brother.